Somehow we got to figure out a way to take it to the next level, raise the bar. And so as I promised, I'd like to take you on an emotional roller coaster ride. And if nothing more, just prove once and for all that one moment in time changes forever if it's a magical moment. I was on the program with Henry Winkler, Fonzie from Happy Days, one of the most amusing gentlemen I've ever met in my lifetime. He decides he wants to take some time off, treat himself to a matinee movie. So he slides in through the side exit door of the theater. And as he shuffles himself through the aisle, he finds himself a vacant seat. As Henry Winkler turns to sit down on the chair to look up at the movie screen, the little girl sitting right behind him smiles this giant smile. She points her finger and she slowly says, "Fonzie." Henry Winkler immediately snaps into the Fonzie character from Happy Days. Whoa. And the lady sitting next to the little girl passes out. Henry Winkler milks the moment. Whoa, I thought this only happened on TV drama. Yeah, how cool is this? Whoa. Theater manager comes out, takes care of the woman's needs. She's lying in the aisle. Cold pack on her forehead. She's asked one question. Why did you pass out? She said, "My little girl is autistic." And that is the very first word she has ever spoken in her entire life. I hope you believe as I believe that one moment in time can change forever. What would happen if we decided to step back to gain perspective to see where we are and where it is that we really want to be as people and as speakers, and figured out a way to take charge of creating the magical moments in our lives instead of kicking back and waiting for them to happen? We live our lives as if there's no tomorrow, as if every single moment in time has a lesson to be learned, and it's our responsibility to extract from that life, that minute, that moment in time, the lesson.
Purpose of the meeting, sales, IT, managers, educators, support staff. I speak to all of them because I believe that the purpose of any meeting in any industry, any job description, is to give the attendees an experience they can't get at work and to take them to a place they can't take themselves.
If you're looking for an adventure who will inspire your people to stretch themselves and increase productivity, Dan has flown F-16 and F-18 fighter jets pulling 9 Gs, going twice the speed of sound. Dan has raced dog sleds in the Arctic, ridden elephants in Thailand, was selected and honored to carry the Olympic torch in the Salt Lake 2002 Olympic Winter Games, and served on an Olympic committee uniting the leaders of the world. Can you imagine the hundreds of experiences and unique life lessons Dan can share that will make your meeting come alive?
Cornerstone number 1, you got to believe in the power of stretch. I'm limping. I snapped my Achilles tendon playing basketball with the guys on my street, trying to be 20 years old again. And the gentleman who operated on my ankle, his name is Dr. Jim Morgan. He was actually playing in the game. He denies it, but I believe with all of my heart that he came up from behind me in the game and said, "I need a new boat," and he pushed me down. He surgically reattached my Achilles tendon and put it in a plaster cast for 3.5 months. I got the cast off. I was immediately placed into physical therapy. And have you ever been in physical therapy? These are kind of the participatory parts in my program. I appreciate you so much. Physical therapy teaches us 2 things that are relevant to this breakfast, 2 things that are relevant to any meeting that we ever attend. Number 1, going to the physical therapist's office, he warms up my ankle. Then he takes the tip of my foot and he bends it and stretches it to a place it's never ever been before. And as I'm sitting there hanging on with visions of sugar plums pinballing around in my head, he lets go. And it flips back into the exact same spot it was in before he started to stretch me. Wouldn't that be a complete waste of your time, of your money, of your life that you'll never relive again? If we as speakers and presenters do everything we know how to do to stretch you intellectually and emotionally, if you just leave this 2.5-day conference, this summit, go back home, flip on back into the exact same spot you were in before you arrived here. Do you realize most of the time that's what happens in our meetings, and that's why we discount the power of meetings? That's why we discount the power of speakers. How many of you have ever heard a, quote, motivational speaker speak before? Yeah, don't get so excited, gentlemen. Thanks. They're looking at me like, yeah, we got all the tapes. Go on. Yeah. I agree. I do not want to be a motivational speaker. They're shallow. They always show up with these little cookie-cutter speeches. You know, you've heard them more than anyone. Whip off these little cliches like, we become what we think about. That's not true. If that was true, I would have been a woman by the time I was 12 years old. I want to be an inspirational speaker. That word alone seems to indicate that the stretch will outlast itself, doesn't it? Second thing we learned from physical therapy that is definitely relevant to Coronet Global, to this meeting of the two predecessor organizations, NACOR, IDRC, coming together to be more than you've ever been. Second thing we learned from physical therapy, you have to stretch before you strengthen. And here's the kicker. All the strengthening occurs in the area past the point of discomfort. I know a lot of superstar athletes. I know a lot of superstar professionals. May I be so bold as to throw myself onto your heap? We have the ability to push ourselves to the point of discomfort all by ourselves. After last night, some of you are proving that true right now. If I could just stay awake for 2 more hours, man, I'll get my money's worth. I know a lot of individuals, every single one of us here, has the ability to push ourselves to the point of discomfort all by ourselves. But I know of no one who has the ability to push themselves into the area past the point of discomfort all by themselves.
So when we land, I say to Colonel Coots, how did we fly this F-16? He said, you become the plane. I said, what do you mean? He said, Dan, when you climbed up that ladder and slid into the cockpit, did you strap into the F-16 or did you strap the F-16 onto you?
If you want a New York Times best-selling author to empower your people to find the opportunity in change, Dan is the author of 20 of his own highly acclaimed books and the primary contributing author to the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, author of Little Souls and College Soul. One of Dan's stories, Puppies for Sale, was made into a film at Paramount Studios starring the late Jack Lemmon.